The bright lights of the council chamber hurt Victor's eyes. After 20 years studying humans in the dim observation posts on Mars and Earth's moon, the gleaming white walls and floating crystal displays of Centauri Prime felt too harsh. But Victor Reese straightened his shoulders anyway. Today was too important for comfort. "Dr. Reese, you may approach the center," announced the council speaker, her voice echoing through the circular room. Victor walked forward, his footsteps silent. On the polished floor, 11 council members watched him from their elevated seats. Most wore expressions of boredom or mild annoyance. Only Councilor Alan Harris, the youngest member by several decades, showed genuine interest. "You requested this emergency session to discuss Primitive Species Designation 4172, known locally as humans," said Councilor Genta, not bothering to hide her impatience. "The council has many pressing matters, please be brief." Victor nodded and activated his data tablet. Above him, a holographic display showed Earth from orbit, blue oceans, swirling white clouds, the lights of cities visible even from space. "Distinguished council members, I come before you with urgent concerns about humanity," Victor began. "After 20 Earth years observing them, I must strongly advise against our planned first contact protocols." Councilor Genta sighed loudly. "Dr. Reese, the protocols for contact with pre-FTL civilizations are well established. Your own reports confirm they have barely reached their own moon." "Their technological progress isn't the issue," Victor said. "It's their nature. Humans are unlike any species we've encountered." He changed the display to show scenes from human history: ancient battles, modern cities rising from ruins, scientists working in labs, athletes pushing their bodies to extremes. Humans adapt faster than any species we know. When faced with problems, they don't just overcome them, they become stronger because of them. Victor pointed to the images. A deadly plague leads to medical breakthroughs. A war destroys their cities and they rebuild better ones. Their entertainment constantly imagines threats from space, preparing their minds for our existence before we even arrive. "All species struggle and overcome," said Councilor Mevlock dismissively. "This is not unique." "The scale and speed is," Victor insisted, "and there's more. Humans are both deeply cooperative and fiercely competitive at the same time. They form bonds across their arbitrary national boundaries, yet fight endlessly over resources and ideas." He showed new images: human sports competitions, political debates, scientific collaborations. "Most importantly," Victor continued, "humans respond to threats differently than other species. When cornered, most intelligent life forms seek compromise or surrender to survive. Humans often do the opposite. They fight harder, take greater risks, and unite against common enemies." Alan Harris leaned forward. "You're suggesting our standard approach might provoke them?" "Exactly," Victor said, grateful for the understanding. "Our protocol calls for technological assessment tests and resource sampling from their system. Humans will interpret this as invasion, not scientific inquiry." Councilor Genta waved her hand dismissively. "They have projectile weapons and primitive nuclear devices. Even if they resist, they pose no threat to our ships." Victor took a deep breath. "With respect, Councilor, that thinking proves my point. We judge them by their technology, not their potential. In my 20 years studying them, I've watched them advance faster than our models predicted. They don't know about us yet, but they're preparing anyway. Building better ships, weapons, detection systems." He changed the display again, showing human military exercises and space defense systems. "Their history is written in blood and triumph. When threatened, they don't negotiate from weakness, they find ways to fight back. And they're remarkably good at turning enemies' strengths against them." The council chamber fell quiet. Victor pressed his advantage. "I'm not suggesting we avoid contact forever. I'm requesting that we approach them as equals despite their technological limitations. Send cultural representatives first, not resource extractors. Offer knowledge exchange, not tests." Councilor Genta shook her head. "Dr. Reese, your concern for these humans has clearly compromised your scientific objectivity. You've been isolated among your research team too long." "I agree with Dr. Reese," Alan Harris said suddenly. His data shows clear patterns that don't match our standard contact models. You're our newest member, Counselor Harris, said Genta coldly. Perhaps you lack the experience to judge primitive contact protocols. Perhaps fresh eyes see what familiar ones miss, Harris replied. The council speaker raised her hand for silence. We will vote on Dr. Reese's recommendation to modify first contact protocols for species 4172. Those in favor? Only Alan Harris raised his hand. Those opposed? 11 hands went up. The speaker nodded. The council has decided. Standard protocols will proceed as scheduled. Resource assessment will begin in the outer reaches of their system within 6 months. Dr. Reese, your research data will be valuable in understanding their response. You are dismissed. Victor stood frozen for a moment, then bowed stiffly. 20 years of work, ignored in minutes. As he turned to leave, he saw something in the other council members' eyes that troubled him more than their dismissal: certainty. The same certainty he had seen in history records about human generals who led their forces into devastating defeats. Outside the chamber, Victor leaned against the wall, suddenly exhausted. Footsteps approached, and he looked up to see Counselor Harris hurrying toward him. Dr. Reese, wait, Harris called. I've studied your complete reports, not just the summaries. I believe you're right about the humans. Victor straightened. Thank you, Counselor, but it doesn't matter now. It will soon, Harris said grimly. When the assessment ships enter their system, what do you think the humans will do? Victor thought about the military exercises he had observed, the space defense drills, the countless human stories about alien invaders. They'll respond with everything they have, he said softly. And when that's not enough, they'll find new ways to fight back. The council thinks we're starting scientific assessment. The humans will think they're fighting for survival. Harris nodded. The council won't listen until it's too late. So what do we do now? Victor looked at the younger counselor with surprise, then determination. We prepare. The contact is coming whether we like it or not. When it goes wrong, and it will, the council will need advisors who understand humans. And if they still don't listen? Harris asked. Victor's expression darkened. Then we find ways to help humanity survive. Because if the Confederation pushes them too far, we might be the ones running in the end. 6 months passed quickly. Victor spent most of that time reviewing human military patterns and trying to predict their response to the Confederation's arrival. His warnings became notes in forgotten files. The Council had moved on to other matters. On the day the Confederation ships entered the Sol system, Victor sat alone in his small office on Centauri Prime, watching live data feeds from the mission. 3 large Confederation vessels approached the gas giant Jupiter, their engines barely working as they glided through space. Admiral Vexorn commanded the fleet from the largest ship. The mission was considered routine, so routine that most of the Council didn't bother to monitor it. Beginning resource extraction near the outer planet, reported an officer on Vexorn's bridge. No sign of detection from the primitive world. Victor shook his head. The Confederation still didn't understand. Humans had been watching the skies for centuries, preparing for this moment through science and imagination. Their detection systems were better than the Confederation believed. Far away in Earth orbit, Captain Lyra Daniels of the Earth Defense Fleet stared at her sensor readings with narrowed eyes. After years of false alarms and questionable sightings, these signals were different. 3 large objects had entered the solar system, moving with clear purpose toward Jupiter. Confirm those readings, she ordered her crew aboard the flagship Guardian, and notify command immediately. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Greg Foster, looked up from his screen. Confirmed, Captain. 3 objects, definitely artificial. Their technology is like nothing we've seen before. Lyra nodded. This is what we've trained for. Alert all ships in the fleet. Move to defensive formation Delta, but keep your distance. Let's see what they do before we make any moves. Back near Jupiter, Admiral Vexorn watched with mild interest as automated harvesters deployed toward the gas giant. The machines would collect various gases useful to Confederation industries. Standard procedure for resource assessment of primitive systems. Admiral, called an officer, we're detecting multiple small vessels leaving the inner planet, moving in our direction. Vexorn sighed. Primitive observation craft, most likely. Ignore them unless they interfere with the harvesters. The officer looked uncertain. They appeared to be moving in coordinated patterns, sir. Military formations. This caught the Admiral's attention. Show me. The display revealed 20 human ships moving with clear purpose, arranging themselves in a defensive screen between Earth and the Confederation vessels. Not chaotic, not curious, but disciplined. Vexorn frowned. This is unexpected for their development level. Maintain operations but keep alert. Aboard the Guardian, Captain Daniels received a transmission from Earth Command. Captain, you are authorized to attempt communication with the unknown vessels. Make clear our peaceful intentions, but also our sovereignty over the solar system. Understood, Lyra replied. She turned to her communications officer. Open all standard frequencies and send our first contact message. The message beamed toward the alien ships was simple. Attention unknown vessels. This is Captain Lyra Daniels of the Earth Defense Fleet. We observe your presence in our solar system. We come in peace and wish to establish communication. Please respond. On his flagship, Admiral Vexorn was surprised by the clear transmission. They're more advanced than our reports indicated, he muttered. To his communications officer, he said, Ignore it. We're not here to talk to primitives. Continue with the harvesting operation. As the Confederation harvesters began collecting gases from Jupiter's atmosphere, the human ships moved closer. A new message came from the Guardian. Attention alien vessels. You are harvesting resources in protected space without authorization. Cease operations immediately, or we will consider this an act of aggression. Vexorn laughed. The primitives are giving us orders? How amusing. He turned to his weapons officer. Let's give them a minor deterrent. Target their lead vessel with a low-power pulse. Nothing damaging, just enough to send them running home. In his office on Centauri Prime, Victor watched the feed with growing horror. No, he whispered. Don't do it. The Confederation ship fired. The energy pulse hit the Guardian, disabling some of its systems. Admiral Vexorn expected panic, retreat, or confusion. Instead, Captain Daniels's voice came through, calm but firm. Earth Command, we have been fired upon. Request permission to defend ourselves in the solar system. The response was immediate. Permission granted, Captain. Show them what humans do when threatened. What happened next shocked the Confederation. Instead of fleeing, the human ships launched a coordinated attack. They moved with unexpected speed and precision, targeting the Confederation vessels with weapons that should have been beyond their technological level. How is this possible? Shouted Vexorn as his ship rocked from an impact. Their weapons shouldn't be able to penetrate our shields. They're using some kind of adaptive frequency, reported his science officer, voice filled with disbelief. They observed our shield harmonics from the first shot and adjusted their weapons. Victor had warned the Council about human adaptability, about their ability to turn an enemy's strength against them. Now they were seeing it firsthand. Within hours, one Confederation ship was crippled, its systems failing. The harvesters were destroyed. Admiral Vexorn ordered a retreat, his confidence shattered. Send word to the Council, he commanded. The situation has escalated beyond our expectations. As the Confederation ships limped away from Jupiter, Captain Daniels didn't pursue. Stand down weapons, she ordered. Let them go, but maintain alert status and begin analyzing everything we've learned about their technology. Her communications officer turned from his station. Captain, Earth Command wants to speak with you. It's General Wright herself. Lyra took the call. General Samantha Wright's face appeared on screen, eyes hard as steel. Captain Daniels, excellent work out there. But this isn't over. I'm calling an emergency meeting of all Earth governments. We've just confirmed what many have suspected for years. We are not alone, and not everyone out there is friendly. On Centauri Prime, the Council gathered in emergency session. Counselor Genta's face had lost its usual arrogant expression. How could this happen? They were supposed to be at least a century away from effective space warfare. Victor Reese was summoned urgently from his office. When he entered the council chamber, the same people who had dismissed him months ago now looked at him with desperate eyes. "Dr. Reese," the council speaker said, "explain what happened." Victor looked around the room, meeting each council member's gaze. "I told you," he said simply. "Humans don't respond to intimidation the way other species do. You've just guaranteed escalation." In the silence that followed, Councillor Harris spoke up. "The question now is, what will the humans do next?" Victor's answer chilled the room. "They'll prepare for war. You didn't just meet humans today. You awakened them." The United Nations Space Force Command Center in Geneva buzzed with activity. Representatives from every major nation on Earth gathered in the large circular room. Screens displayed data from the Jupiter encounter. The mood was tense but focused. General Samantha Wright stood at the center of the room, her gray uniform crisp, her posture rigid. She had fought in 3 wars on Earth. Now she faced something entirely different. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, 6 days ago aliens entered our solar system. They ignored our attempts at peaceful contact. They took our resources without permission. When asked to stop, they fired on our ships. She paused, looking around the room. But they made one critical mistake. They underestimated us. President Owen Rodriguez of the North American Alliance raised his hand. "General Wright, our ships performed better than expected against their technology. How is that possible, Dr. Tao?" Eliza Bennett stood up from her seat in the science section. Her red hair was pulled back in a tight bun, her eyes tired from days without sleep. "Mr. President, we've been preparing for this possibility for generations," she said. "Project Prometheus was created 50 years ago, after we detected unusual signals from deep space. We realized we weren't alone, and we might not be safe. Walked to the center and activated a holographic display showing complex technical diagrams. We've been intercepting alien transmissions for decades. Most were communications we couldn't understand, but the technical data gave us insights into their technology. We used this to develop weapons and shields that could work against them." President Rodriguez looked surprised. "Why wasn't I informed of this project?" "Need-to-know basis, sir," General Wright replied. "Project Prometheus was kept secret from all but a select few in each administration. We couldn't risk panic or leaks." Admiral Frank Martinez stood next. The veteran naval commander had transitioned to space operations 10 years earlier. "What matters now is our response," he said firmly. "These aliens came here, attacked us, and retreated. They'll be back, and with greater force. We need to show strength immediately." "Are you suggesting we attack them?" asked the Chinese representative. "We don't even know where they come from." "We do now," Dr. Bennett said. She changed the display to show a star map. "We tracked their warp signatures when they fled. They came from a system about 20 light-years away. And based on their communications, they're part of something called the Galactic Confederation, with many member worlds." The room fell silent as everyone processed this information. Humanity wasn't facing a single alien world, but an entire confederation of species. President Rodriguez broke the silence. "What options do we have?" General Wright stepped forward again. "We have 3 choices. First, we can try to negotiate, send messages offering peace. Second, we can fortify our system and prepare for their return. Or third," she paused, "we take the fight to them." "That's madness," said the European Union representative. "We barely held our own against 3 ships. Admiral Martinez smiled slightly. "Actually, we did better than that. Captain Daniels could have pursued and destroyed at least one of their vessels. She showed restraint." Dr. Bennett nodded. "And there's something else you should know." She pressed another button on her console. A hidden door in the wall slid open. 6 massive ships appeared on the main screen, unlike any vessels humans had publicly built before. They were sleek, dark, and bristling with advanced weapons. Project Prometheus wasn't just about research, General Wright explained. These carriers have been built in secret over the last 15 years. They contain technology the Confederation doesn't know we possess. President Rodriguez stood up, eyes wide. "You built a secret fleet?" A first strike. Force, General Wright corrected. Insurance for exactly this situation. The room erupted in a mix of shock, anger, and excitement. Some representatives protested the secrecy. Others demanded immediate action. President Rodriguez called for order. Before we decide anything, I want to know one thing. Can we win? Dr. C. Bennett answered carefully. Their overall civilization is more advanced than ours, but these specific ships are designed to exploit weaknesses in their technology that we've identified from their signals. We won't win a prolonged war, but we can show them that attacking Earth will cost them dearly. The debate lasted hours. In the end, they took a vote. The result was clear. 28 for offensive action, 12 for defensive posture, 3 for attempted negotiation. President Rodriguez looked at the vote tally with a heavy heart. Then we are agreed. Operation Prometheus is authorized. May God have mercy on all our souls. Meanwhile, on Centauri Prime, Victor Reese met secretly with Counselor Harris in a quiet garden away from surveillance. The air smelled of alien flowers, but Victor barely noticed. His mind was filled with calculations and fears. The Council still doesn't understand, Victor said quietly. They're planning a punitive expedition to put the humans in their place. 12 ships this time. Harris shook his head. I tried to convince them otherwise. They believe the first encounter was a fluke, that humans just got lucky. It wasn't luck, Victor replied. It was preparation. I've reviewed my research again. There's something I missed before. Signs of advanced technology hidden among their public achievements. I think humans have known about us, or at least suspected, for much longer than we realized. Harris looked alarmed. What are you saying? I'm saying the Confederation isn't the only one who's been watching and planning. Victor pulled out a data pad and showed Harris images of Earth, strange facilities hidden in mountains, unusual energy signatures, unexplained spacecraft movements. These don't match any known human public space program, Victor explained. I think they've been preparing in secret, and now we've given them reason to use whatever they've built. Harris studied the images carefully. The Council won't believe this. They're convinced humans are just clever primitives who gotten a lucky shot. Then the Confederation will learn what humans do when threatened, Victor said grimly. We need to evacuate everyone we can from the border systems. That would cause panic, Harris objected. Better panic than death, Victor replied. I've studied human warfare for 2 decades. They don't fight like us. When we go to war, we demonstrate strength, force submission, negotiate. Humans fight to win completely. They don't stop until the threat is eliminated or they cannot fight anymore. As they spoke, neither noticed the small maintenance drone hovering nearby, its surveillance systems active, transmitting their conversation directly to Counselor Genta's private office. In Earth orbit, Captain Lyra Daniels received her new orders aboard the Guardian. She read them twice, her face showing no emotion. Lieutenant Foster, she called to her second-in-command. Prepare the ship to join the Prometheus fleet. We depart in 48 hours. Yes, Captain, Foster replied. May I ask our destination? Lyra looked up, her eyes hard with determination. We're taking the fight to them, Lieutenant. Humans don't wait to be attacked twice. Admiral Krell stood on the bridge of the Confederation flagship Invincible, watching as his fleet of 12 advanced warships moved through space toward the Sol system. Unlike Admiral Vexorn, Krell had not underestimated the humans. He had studied the reports of the first encounter carefully. All ships in attack formation, he commanded. Shields at maximum, weapons ready. His second-in-command nodded. The humans will have prepared defenses after our first visit. What are your orders when we encounter them? No games this time, Krell said firmly. We broadcast our demands once. If they don't immediately surrender, we attack with full force. The Council wants this matter settled quickly. The Confederation fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. Krell immediately ordered scans of the area. Strange, muttered his sensor officer. I'm not detecting any human ships in defensive positions. Krell frowned. This wasn't what he expected. Continue scanning, and move toward their home planet at half speed. Be alert for traps. As the Confederation fleet moved deeper into the solar system, the silence became more disturbing. No ships challenged them. No transmissions warned them away. Krell's communication officer turned to him. Admiral, should I broadcast our ultimatum now? Krell nodded, trying to hide his unease. Proceed. The message went out in all frequencies. Attention, Earth forces. This is Admiral Krell of the Galactic Confederation. Your unprovoked attack on our research vessels cannot be tolerated. Surrender your military capabilities immediately or face the consequences. You have 1 hour to comply. The only response was silence. On Centauri Prime, Victor Reese burst into an emergency council session. His usual calm was gone, replaced by desperate urgency. You need to recall the fleet now, he shouted, ignoring protocol. Counselor Genta rose from her seat, outraged. Dr. Reese, you forget yourself. Guards, remove him. Wait, said the council speaker, raising her hand. Dr. Reese, explain yourself. Victor took a deep breath. Something's wrong. The humans should have deployed their fleet in defensive positions. The fact that Admiral Krell reports no resistance means they're planning something else. Perhaps they've simply realized they cannot win and have gone into hiding, suggested another counselor. Victor shook his head vigorously. No. That's not how humans operate. They're not hiding. He activated the central display, showing sensor data from across Confederation space. I've been monitoring unusual energy signatures. There's evidence of warp distortions near 3 of our border colonies. What are you suggesting? Asked the council speaker. Victor's voice was grave. I'm suggesting the humans aren't waiting to be attacked again. They're launching their own offensive. His warning came too late. Near the Confederation colony of New Centauri, a fleet of 6 human carriers appeared suddenly from warp space. They had used technology that masked their warp signatures, allowing them to approach undetected. Aboard the lead ship, renamed Prometheus 1, Captain Lyra Daniels gave the order. All carriers, launch fighters, target their defense platforms, first then their communication arrays. Avoid civilian areas. From each carrier emerged dozens of smaller, faster ships. They moved with coordination that surprised the Confederation defenders. How did they find us? Gasped the colony's defense minister as alarms blared across New Centauri. How did they get here? The battle was swift and precise. The human fighters disabled the colony's defenses with targeted strikes, then neutralized its ability to call for help. Within hours, human troops landed and secured key facilities. Captain Daniels addressed the colony's leadership council directly. We have no desire to harm civilians. Surrender your military installations and remain neutral in the conflict between Earth and the Confederation, and we will withdraw most of our forces. Similar scenes played out at 2 other Confederation colonies. By the time Admiral Krell received word of the attacks, it was too late to respond. Back in the Sol system, Krell's fleet found itself in a dangerous position. The humans knew exactly where they were, but Krell had no idea where the main human forces had gone. Admiral, his tactical officer reported nervously, we're detecting new energy signatures behind us. They weren't there a moment ago. Krell spun around. Show me. The display revealed 3 human ships that had somehow appeared between the Confederation fleet and their escape route. Impossible, Krell whispered. They can't have that technology. His communication officer looked up in alarm. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the human vessels. The screen showed a human female in a military uniform. This is General Samantha Wright of Earth Defense Forces. Your fleet is surrounded. We have already secured 3 of your border colonies. Stand down your weapons and prepare to receive our terms. Krell's face darkened with rage. You dare to dictate terms to the Confederation? We have thousands of worlds. You have one, General Wright smiled coldly. But we have your colonies, and we have ships that can appear anywhere in your territory without warning. Check your long-range communications. You'll find they're being jammed. No one knows. You're in trouble, Admiral. For the first time in his long career, Krell felt real fear. In the council chamber on Centauri Prime, chaos erupted as reports of the human attacks filtered in. 3 colonies under human control. Admiral Krell's fleet is cut off. We've lost contact with the border systems. Counselor Genta turned on Victor, her face twisted with anger. You knew this would happen. You're working with them. I warned you, Victor replied calmly. I told you humans don't think like us. They prepare for worst-case scenarios constantly. Their entertainment, their history, their literature, all prepared them psychologically for this moment. The council. Speaker's voice cut through the noise. How can one primitive species from one world threaten the greatest civilization in the galaxy? Victor looked at her with something like pity. Because you still think technology alone decides wars. Humans. No better. They fight with everything they have. Technology, yes, but also courage, creativity, and absolute determination. As he spoke, a message reached the council chamber. It was being broadcast on all frequencies across Confederation space. To all worlds of the Galactic Confederation. We are humanity of Earth. We did not seek this conflict. We did not fire first. But we will end this on our terms. Any world that stands with the Confederation against us will face our full might. Any world that declares neutrality will be respected and left in peace. The choice is yours. You have one standard day to decide. Fear rippled visibly through the council chamber as the implications became clear. The Confederation, used to easy dominance, now faced a species that fought differently than any they had encountered before. In the silence that followed, Counselor Harris looked at Victor. What happens now? Victor's answer was simple. Now the Confederation learns that starting a war with humans was the worst mistake they could make. 3 months passed. The Galactic Confederation had changed forever. Maps in the council chamber now showed large sections of former Confederation space marked in different colors, territories that had declared independence or neutrality in the conflict with Earth. Victor Reese stood at the window of his new larger office on Centauri Prime. The council had finally given him the respect and resources he had deserved all along. Too late to prevent disaster, but perhaps not too late to salvage peace. A soft chime announced a visitor. Victor turned to see the council speaker herself at his door. Dr. Reese, she said, her voice lacking its former confidence. The council has voted. We are sending you to Earth as our chief negotiator, with full authority to offer peace terms. Victor raised an eyebrow. The same council that ignored my warnings now trust me to save them? The speaker's face showed rare humility. We were wrong. You understood humans better than anyone. Now we need that understanding to end this conflict before we lose everything. Victor nodded slowly. I'll need a ship prepared immediately. Venidero, Victor's diplomatic vessel approached Earth 1 week later. He was surprised to find Counselor Harris already there, waiting for him at the orbital station. Harris? What are you doing here? Victor asked as they embraced like old friends. Harris smiled. I defected 3 weeks ago. The humans needed someone who understood Confederation politics, and I needed to be on the right side of history. They took a shuttle down to Earth's surface. Victor had studied humans for decades, but this was his first time setting foot on their world. The shuttle landed in a place called New York, at the headquarters of the United Nations. It's amazing, Victor said, looking at the gleaming buildings and busy streets. Their cities are full of life, so different from our careful, planned worlds. Harris nodded. That's what the council never understood. Humans thrive on challenge and change. Our stability felt like stagnation to them. President Owen Rodriguez and General Samantha Wright met them in a large meeting room overlooking a green park. Despite having the upper hand in the conflict, they were respectful, not arrogant. Dr. Reese, President Rodriguez said, shaking his hand. We've heard much about you, the alien who tried to prevent this war. Victor nodded. I wish I had been more persuasive. Tell us, General Wright said, getting straight to business. What does the Confederation offer? Victor presented the Council's terms: recognition of Earth as a sovereign system, limited reparations for the initial attack, and a non-aggression pact. President Rodriguez rejected them immediately. Not enough. We want more than just to be left alone. Victor felt a flash of worry. What do you want? Territory? Resources? Partnership, Rodriguez said simply. Equal membership in a new interstellar community based on mutual respect, not dominance. Victor was surprised. You could demand much more. Your ships control key Confederation systems. Many other worlds have declared independence because of your example. General Wright smiled. Humans don't want domination, Dr. Reese. We want partnership. But we will never accept being treated as lesser beings. This, Victor realized, was what he had tried to explain to the Council from the beginning. Humans fought fiercely when threatened, but their goals were rarely simple conquest. I'll need to consult with the Council, Victor said. Of course, President Rodriguez agreed. In the meantime, you're our guest. We'd like to show you Earth, help you understand us better. Over the next 2 weeks, Victor visited human cities, schools, farms, and factories. He watched their entertainment, tasted their food, and spoke with people from all walks of life. He saw their capacity for both war and peace, their strange mix of competition and cooperation. When the Council finally responded to Earth's proposal, it was with reluctant acceptance. They had little choice. The alternative was continued fragmentation of their once great confederation. 6 months later, Victor stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, a massive structure built at a neutral point between Earth and Centauri, space. Ships from 20 former Confederation worlds and 15 human colonies gathered around the station. Each represented a founding member of the new interstellar coalition. Ambassador Harris, no longer counselor, joined him at the viewport. You were right about them all along, Harris said, watching the diverse fleet of ships. But you missed one thing. What's that? Victor asked. You warned the Council that humans would fight ferociously when backed into a corner. You failed to mention they could be equally impressive in peace. It was true. In the months since the conflict, humans had shared medical technologies that saved millions of lives across former Confederation worlds. They had helped colonies achieve independence without bloodshed. They had shown wisdom that many, including Victor at times, had not expected. As delegates from dozens of worlds streamed into the inaugural session of the new Coalition Council, Victor smiled. Humans sat among representatives of species far older and once thought more advanced. They didn't demand special treatment or power beyond their share. They simply insisted on respect. Perhaps I focused too much on making them fear humans, Victor admitted. Now they'll learn to understand them. The first meeting of the coalition began, with President Rodriguez and representatives from former Confederation worlds together at the table. Their first unanimous decision was to name Victor Reese as Coalition Ambassador at Large, the one who had seen the truth before anyone else. As Victor accepted the position, he thought about how much had changed in one short year. The mighty Confederation had fallen not through total defeat, but through the realization that their way was not the only way, perhaps not even the best way. The old council had ignored his warnings about humans. They had dismissed a species they saw as primitive and inconsequential. They had believed their advanced technology made them superior. Now they were partners with humans in a new kind of interstellar community, one built on mutual respect rather than dominance. Victor looked out at the stars visible through the station's viewport. He wondered what other surprising species waited out there, what other lessons the galaxy had to teach. The universe, he realized, was far more interesting than the Confederation had ever imagined. Beside him, a human child on a school tour of the station pressed her face to the glass, eyes wide with wonder at the ships outside. When I grow up, she told Victor seriously, I'm going to visit every world in the coalition. Victor smiled. That sense of endless possibility, that hunger to explore and connect. This was what made humans special. Not just their ability to fight when threatened, but their desire to reach out, to understand, to build something new. I think you will, he told her, and the universe will be better for it.